So again, welcome to Workshop Wednesday on this June 19th, 2024. Happy to have you here. And today we're going to talk about back to basics. We're going to talk about configuration and navigation. But before we begin, just a few reminders. Workshop Wednesday is Agile's monthly FleetCommander Knowledge series. It's always scheduled on the third Wednesday from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern. Your feedback is always needed and wanted in regards to monthly topics that you would like us to identify and present to you. And you can let us know on our QR code or on your smartphone today if you have any ideas for any future events and how we did today. And also just a reminder, this webinar is being recorded. So you are being recorded and a copy of this will be available on our YouTube channel in 1 to 2 business days. Your mic will be muted during the webinar, but that doesn't mean we don't want to hear from you. We definitely want you to ask questions. So asking questions is a very important part of learning. And if you have the question, I can guarantee you somebody else has the question as well. So today during our webinar, if you need to ask a question, please click to show the conversation button and then type your question. And please tell us your name and the name of your organization. That just helps us because that information doesn't come through. It helps us to better identify and answer the questions for you. So today's agenda, back to basics, configuration and navigation. We're going to be going through some best practices. We're going to go through some effortless navigation, how to make it effortless for you by setting up your enterprise settings the proper way. And we're going to be looking at multiple different tabs for that, the general reservations, reservation settings, users, and vehicle tabs. Then we'll take a recap of what we learned today, and then we'll talk about those other tools in your Fleet Toolbox. So my name is Kathy Wellik, and I'm the Senior Director of Client Success here at Agile Fleet. And again, welcome to all of you participating. So it's always best to have best practices, right? So when we're talking about configuration in this system, best practices and being consistent is so important. And that starts even with just the simple things. So making sure your staff are consistent with font and capitalization. So for example, are you going to type everything in all capital letters? Are you going to type a capital letter and then 2 small letters? Are you going to type a small letter then capital letters? Is a Chevrolet vehicle a Chevy, a Chevrolet, or a GM? There's many different things that you can do, but to be consistent and be able to really drill down in your data, it's really nice if you have that consistency in your font, capitalization, the different things you call things such as Chevy and Chevrolet. So just put that expectation out there with your staff and making sure that everybody's on the same page, because that will really help you later on be able to sort your data and make sure you're catching all of it. So again, communicate with your fleet staff the why that you're doing it in the system as well. So in this one, I really think of audit control as well. So in a little bit, when we're going through the slides, you're going to be learning about some of the settings for supervisors to get emails and so forth. And in a particular example, a dispatcher might receive a question, somebody saying, please don't send me all these emails. I don't need all these emails. However, the supervisor might have set Agile up with those audit controls, and that supervisor getting that email might be the audit control or the verification notifying that the supervisor knows that their staff is using a vehicle. So it's really important with when you set up the system that you communicate with all your staff why the system is set up that way, and so they understand that you need to continue to set it up that way and not deviate. And then also privacy, right? So some people do collect driver's licenses. We encourage that you don't collect driver's licenses. Yes, you can have driver's license expiration dates and so forth, but privacy is important. So please make sure you're all on the same page with your team on that. If your staff, if they don't know, make sure they feel comfortable asking. You know, why do we have FleetCommander set up this way? What does this particular part of the system being set this way, how does that affect another part of the system? If your staff don't know, please make sure they ask and encourage them to ask so you're all running the system well together and you have good data, because good data in equals good data out. And again, don't take shortcuts. So this is a perfect picture for this because, as you can see above that detour sign, it says WBW Liberty ST. So westbound West Liberty Street, right? Well, again, in the system, is westbound spelled out westbound, or is it WB? Is street street, or is it STREET? So consistency is really important. And when people start taking shortcuts and just changing the word from street to ST, does everybody else on your team know what that means when it comes to fleet? So just please make sure that you're making sure that they are not taking shortcuts and that you're doing good data. So next, we're going to go into the Enterprise Settings General tab and go through what is in this tab. So to get there, you're going to go to Configure, Enterprise Settings, General, and we're going to take a look at the Security Timeout. So this is where it determines if an automatic logout is going to happen, and if so, after how much time. So you can choose in that drop down either 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, 10 minute, 15, or 30 minute. And the computer, if there's no activity, the automatic logout will happen after a certain amount of idle time. Next in the Enterprise Settings, in the General tab, is the contact information. So in this, the contact name is the person or office name in that first line. The website label adds a label to the website address when used in layouts. The website address is your actual URL for the FleetCommander site, but do not edit this field unless directed to by Agile Fleet Technical Support. The email label adds a label to appear when used in layouts, such as Company Motor Pool, instead of the motorpool@company.com. The email address is who the enterprise level emails appear to be sent by. This should be a group email if at all possible, because if someone is on vacation or out sick, everybody needs to be able to get to that email. And the numbers and labels interact similarly as described above, but for phone numbers and fax numbers. So now let's go to the Enterprise Settings Reservations tab. There's a lot of customizable fields that you can do in the Enterprise Settings in the Reservation tab. So the label text box is where the name of the field type is entered. This will appear throughout FleetCommander. The data drop-down determines how the data is collected, and the following types of data can be selected. So it can be the text, which are facilities collection of characters, such as alphanumeric or special characters, or the date range, as indicated over here on the left, which is facilities collection of data in a date format. It can be a value range, which facilitates collection of numbers that fall within a certain value range only. It could be text, numeric only, facilities collection of numbers only. It could be text with validation, which includes a collection of characters, alphanumeric and special characters, against a set of configured values. It could be a drop-down list, which facilitates collection of specific options entered by the administrator. And then there's also the minimum text box and the maximum text box. So the minimum fields that you enter would have to be a minimum of 3 characters. The maximum text box allows administrators to set up parameters in connection with the data type selected. this field is not required. So for example, if a text option has a value of 6 in the maximum, and entered would have to be a maximum of 6 characters, anything entered. So for example, how we used this in our fleet was with account numbers. Our account numbers had to be a minimum of 7, but a maximum of 11 numbers. So we would have a minimum of 7, maximum of 11, and then we would get the right number of digits for the account number. Once you add that information, you have to configure the values. So this is where administrators enter values in connection with the text with validation and drop-down lists. So after choosing a data type with configured values, be sure to hit Save Changes prior to selecting the Configure Values. And then clicking on the Configure Values link will open the Configure Custom Field Values window. If values have been previously entered, they will appear here, and you will use the standard FleetCommander icons to view or edit the values. So as you can see, in sort order, this is 10, this is 20, so this would show up first, this would show up second because it's in numeric order. And if you need to make a change, you would just use the pencil, or if you just want to view, you would use the magnifying glass. In these configuring values, to add a new value, you want to click on Add a new custom field value button on the Configuration Custom Field Values Add page. The custom field value is the name of the value which will appear or which will be validated against. The sort order is the order of the value to be displayed in the drop-down list, and if the sort order box is left blank, then it will be listed before the numbered sort orders. By clicking the checkbox next to Active, the field will show up in the drop-down list. Click the Save Changes button to create the new value and have it saved in the Configuration Custom Field Values page. Please note that if the values do not work for the data type selected, an error message will appear and you will need to fix it. So now I'd like you each to put in the chat, what custom fields do you use in FleetCommander? Do any of you have any custom fields that you have used? I know I'll give you an example. In our fleet, we had a custom field that we used, like I said, for account number and wanting to make sure that we gathered a certain number of digits. I'll wait just a little bit here to see if any of you put anything in the chat, and if so, we'll share and talk about it, because that also helps the other attendees being able to know what folks do. Okay. Well, hearing none, we're going to go ahead and go on. So enterprise settings, we're going to now go to the reservation settings. So the following settings can be changed to take effect across the whole enterprise. So remember, the enterprise is everything, the big umbrella, and sites are different individual sites amongst the big umbrella. So the department label, this is the label name given to the department field, and that propagates to all areas in FleetCommander where the field is used, including the online registration form on the value reservation form. The default value is department, but could be changed to agency, division, etc., to fit the need of your organization's naming structure. The second one down there, the account label, is the label name given to the account field, and that all propagates to all areas of FleetCommander where the field is used, including the online registration form and the vehicle reservation form. The default value is account, but could be changed to cost center, funding code, etc. Anything to fit your organization's accounting name. The format options are the reservation screen contains a lot of information. In order to improve readability of the reservation form, administrators can configure how many vehicle options will appear in the reservation form per line. Administrators can elect to show 2, 3, 4, or 5 options in each row of a reservation form. Next, how do we format the vehicle? So the Format Vehicle option allows administrators to decide the format that will be used for presenting vehicle information on forms, emails, reports. And in this example, the administrator can decide on whether to show just the vehicle ID or the vehicle ID and the vehicle name, etc. So all formatting options are shown in the drop-down box below, and you would pick the proper drop-down box that you want to use. Now let's talk about late returns, late pickups, and reservations per page. When do they become a late return and a late pickup? So late pickup in minutes is when a vehicle will be deemed late, being picked up if more than a certain number of minutes in this field has elapsed since the scheduled start time of the reservation and the vehicle has not yet been dispatched out by the dispatch process. The late return in minutes is a vehicle is deemed late being returned if more than a certain number of minutes in this field has elapsed since the scheduled in time of the reservation and the vehicle has not yet been dispatched by the dispatch process. So the reservations per page is the parameter setting on the default number of reservations shown on the Manage Reservation page, restricting the number of reservations displayed. May also have times and information on that page. Next, enforcing license settings. This is extremely important if you're trying to make sure that folks cannot get a vehicle if their driver's license is expired, is not valid, or suspended. So to enforce expired licenses, the parameter is defined with whether FleetCommander will check to see if a driver's license has expired. If this column is checked, then FleetCommander checks the driver's profile at the time the reservation is made and at the time a reservation is dispatched. To enforce the validated license, this parameter defines whether FleetCommander will check to see if a driver's license has been validated, and if checked, FleetCommander checks the driver's validation. At times a reservation is made and at the time the reservation is manually dispatched. And the enforcing suspended license allows the parameter which determines whether FleetCommander checks the status of a person's ability to drive a vehicle is checked. FleetCommander checks the driver's profile at the time the reservation is made and at the time a reservation is manually dispatched. Let's talk about submitting and making similar and some other miscellaneous settings that work on the reservation screens. So enabling submit and make similar requests button, this parameter determines whether FleetCommander will allow non-administrators the ability to use and submit and make similar requests during the reservation process. You can also permit users to search the driver's list. This parameter determines whether FleetCommander will allow non-administrators the ability to search FleetCommander database for a driver's username when making a reservation. This is very handy to have turned on if you have a lot of folks that are making reservations for other people. So if you have administrators or secretaries or someone making travel arrangements for others, it's very handy to have that turned on so they can look up last names and usernames. Will you permit users to upload files to a reservation? This parameter determines whether FleetCommander will allow non-administrators the ability to upload files to their reservation requests. They can upload anything such as a picture, a piece of paper, a PDF. So multiple different things can be done there. And permit usage types to be modified. The administrator wishes to change the usage type when modifying a reservation. This parameter must be enabled by checking the box. The parameter is enabled by default, and if you go ahead and modify reservations for future, it will work. So another question for the group. and you can just put your answers in the chat. But do you enforce driver's license information through FleetCommander right now with your fleet? We do not. Thank you, Christopher, for responding. I appreciate that. Anyone else? Do you enforce driver's license information through FleetCommander? And many of you may not have even known that you could, right? Another attendee says no. Okay. Yeah. So if the answer is no, then I ask, why not? And is that something that we can help you with in the future? Because we can set it up very simply for you. But it is something that you have to, have a policy on and decide, is this something that would work for us? All right, now we're going to go on to enterprise settings on the user's side. So the following settings determine how the data will be displayed on user profiles and registration. So thank you, Chris. I just read Chris's comment. So Chris has a good point. So they don't have business process that captures the DLs on their drivers. So that would be a good reason why you are not using it. So again, it all comes back to policy and each fleet is different. So thank you. I appreciate your participation, Chris. So let's take a look at these user settings. So that organization label, this is the label name given to the organization field that propagates to all areas of FleetCommander where the field is used. So the default value is always organization, but it can be changed to campus, agency, etc. to fit your organization's naming. The title label. This is the label given to the title field that propagates to all areas of FleetCommander where the field is used. So again, the default value is title, but it could be changed to position, rank, anything like that to fit your organization's job titles. The username label. This is the label name given to the username field and that propagates to all areas of FleetCommander where the field is used. So the default value is username, but could be changed to login ID, account, etc. to fit your organization's login independence and identification. So for example, our username was the beginning of our emails and so forth. So they would know that they needed to enter their username, and that was consistent across all areas of the organization. Then there's also a label for users' phone numbers, and there's multiple fields, 1 through 4, so they can have up to 4 numbers stored if you need a business phone, a personal phone, a cell phone, a work phone, etc., or a fax. And there's also a label for users' emails, and they can have up to 2 emails. The email 1 field is required, but up to 2 emails can be put in per user. So some examples again of those could be business email, personal email, group email. So lots of good options there. Then we have more custom fields available under the user setting. So these custom fields are unique fields that administrators can define to collect organizational specific information. So these custom fields are defined as the enterprise level so that data across sites is consistent and normalized across all users. So under site settings, administrators can determine which of this field they want to request or require on the reservation form. And you can have up to 20 custom fields available to be labeled, but labels left blank will not be displayed. So you absolutely do not have to use all of these. You don't have to use any of these, but this is where you can customize it specifically to your fleet again by your fleet needs and making these custom fields. The supervisor label is the label name given to the supervisor field that propagates to all areas of FleetCommander where the field is used. So the default value is supervisor, but it could be changed to direct report, fiscal officer, etc. to fit your organization's specific hierarchy. In the user emails, we want to make sure that staff members know, again, why these boxes are checked and what they mean. So these following fields determine the behavior of FleetCommander regarding all emails and user profiles. So sending admin an email when a user edits their profile. If you check this box, an administrator should receive an email notifying them when a user changes their profile. If you click Send Admin Email when a dependent is added or changed, clicking this box will give the administrator an email notifying them when a user changed their dependent information. Setting the default for Send New Request Email to the supervisor to Yes, this setting will be automatically checked in the newly created profile of a user. And when checked in the user's profile, the user's supervisor will be copied on the new request email, whether the request is made from the user side or the admin side, so they can reach back out to the fleet if for some reason this employee should not be allowed to have a vehicle. Setting default for Send Change Request Email to the supervisor label. If you set that to Yes, then this setting will be automatically checked to the newly created profile of a user. So when checked in the user's profile, the user's supervisor will be copied on the change request email when a change is requested by the requester or driver. Next, we have the default for Send Modification Email to the supervisor. If checked, then this setting will be automatically checked in the newly created profile of a user. And when checked in the user's profile, the user's supervisor will be copied if the administrator modifies a request. So these are those emails that I'm talking about in which this really comes into play for audit purposes. For example, when I managed a fleet, before we went to FleetCommander, we used to have a piece of paper that had all of the information on it for the request, and then somebody had to sign it. A supervisor had to sign it and approve for those funds to be used for the vehicle rental. These emails replace that paperwork. So these emails automatically going to the supervisor replace the need to have that signed paperwork. So the emails automatically copy the supervisor, and then the supervisor can let the dispatcher know if there's a problem and if somebody should not be using that account or should not be renting a vehicle. So it's kind of those checks and balances. So again, this is where the communication comes into place and making sure that your staff know why these boxes are checked and they don't just go and start unchecking them when somebody complains that there's too many emails or something. So it's all about, making sure that everybody understands why these boxes are checked. Then sending approval email to the supervisor, same thing. Every time the email gets approved, a copy would go to the supervisor of the user that is on that. And then send cancellation email to the supervisor. If for any reason that reservation gets canceled, the supervisor would also get a copy of that email. So one thing, if you don't want them to get all the emails, I would at least set it so the supervisor does get the approved email of each reservation, but they don't necessarily need to know all the changes or any of the cancellations and so forth, because you got to think about it as they have the potential of spending money on this vehicle rental. So how can I make sure that administration knows that? Now we're going to go on to that user login. So these fields determine the behavior of FleetCommander regarding the logins and passwords that you have set up. So you can enable forgot password, and in doing so, this parameter determines whether FleetCommander will display the option to select forget password on the login page. So the maximum login errors, this parameter determines how many login attempts with incorrect passwords can happen before somebody gets locked out of the system. And then the maximum login errors determines how long a user is locked out from their account after reaching those maximum login errors. So if after 5 attempts, you have it set for 5 attempts and they get locked out, for how long are they going to get locked out? 1 minute, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour? So it's important to know what those rules are. Require a new password every time. This determines how frequently a new password has to be created based on a number of days. So if it's set to 0, passwords will not expire after a specific amount of days. So it will basically ignore this field. But if you want them to change it, every year, then you need to put 365. And then every 365 days, the system's going to make you change that password. The minimum password length determines the amount of characters needed for a password to be accepted. And this setting is beneficial for password strength. And then the maximum password length determines what the maximum amount of characters allowed for a password to be accepted. So again, it has to be with that strength issue. Uppercase password strength determines the minimum number of uppercase letters needed for a password to be accepted. If it's set at 0, passwords will not require an uppercase letter and it will ignore that field. And the lowercase password strength does, just the same thing, only for lowercase letters. It determines the minimum number of lowercase letters that you would need in your password. And again, 0 would not make it required at all. And then the numeric password strength. This determines the minimum number of numbers needed for a password to be accepted. If it's set to 0, again, it would not need any numbers at all. And then special characters, same thing. How many special characters are required in your password? So if your organization is using custom authentication, these settings have no bearing on your passwords. This is only if you are having FleetCommander native login. And so when using any custom authentications such as SAML, OAuth, LDAP, and STEP, the passwords are not stored in FleetCommander. So they're passed to the customer's authentication server and verified outside of FleetCommander. Next, we have user registration, and these fields determine the behavior of FleetCommander regarding user registration. So allow users to register via the web. This allows them to have the Sign Up Now section of FleetCommander and use a customer update, and this can be turned off or it can be kept on. The default password, this parameter determines what the default password is for new users, and the characters are displayed in this field, and it should be changed often. And then the default time zone, this parameter determines what the time zone is for the new users. So this is an important one to make sure that everybody is in the proper time zone to make sure that their timing is correct on their reservations. On the user admin side, these fields determine the behavior of FleetCommander user functionality. So the users per page, this parameter sets the default number of users shown on the Manage Users page section, and it restricts the number of users displayed and may decrease load times for information on a page. Check and enforce updating profiles. This parameter enables FleetCommander function that checks to see whether users are updating their user profile information. When checked, FleetCommander presents a pop-up message that the users has to update their user profile according to the required profile update every so many days. Require profile update every time. This parameter determines how frequently the users will need to update their profiles. So it's based on a number of days in connection with the check and enforce settings above. So if it's set to 0, then they will not be notified to their profile. And finally, the expenses can be entered for. This parameter determines how long expenses can be entered for a user. So the setting is part of the expense module, and you can contact Agile Fleet technical support for more information on that. There's more configurable fields, and there's multiple field displays that you can do for these configurable fields. So that second tab on the users is configurable fields. These settings determine what fields show and how they interact through FleetCommander pages. So this page is broken down into 3 different sections. It's broken down into the user profile on the admin side, the user profile on the user side, and then the actual user registration. The user profile on the admin side are the fields available on a profile that can be accessed by the admin side of FleetCommander users. The user profile on the user side, these are the fields available on a profile accessed on the user side under My Profile. And user registration, these are the fields that are asked in the Sign Up Now box. So there are 4 options for each of these fields. You can have the Do Not Show. So if selected, this field will not show in the corresponding view. Some fields will have a grayed out option if it's a system required field. You can have a read only, which is selected this field and populated values will only show but not be editable. You can have an editable field, which will show and be editable for the corresponding view. And then you can have a required field. So that if it's selected, that field they will not be able to go any further unless that information is filled in. So you can see how the registration page can look different than the user page, which can look different than the administrator page based on how you set it up. So custom fields will also appear on the bottom of these lists, and labeled custom fields will show the label and unlabeled fields, and it will show in the custom field X. So a little bit more audience participation here. So do you use supervisor emails as part of your audit procedures in your fleet? Yes or no? And if you can just put that in the chat, please. Do you use supervisor emails as part of your audit procedures in your fleet? So there's one no, another no, another one's typing, and no. Okay. So with that, no is a fine answer, but I also would ask you, why not? Right? Is there a need? Is it a need that would help you, that would take care of some certain situations that you've been going through? Or is it something that you truly don't need it and it's okay? And that's just part of the customizable system. But it could be that you didn't know that it was there, right? So that's what it's all about, informing you and letting you know about more of these options. So next we're going to go through enterprise settings on the vehicle tab. So the Vehicles tab of the Enterprise Settings is used to control the parameters that are used to maintain information about the vehicles in FleetCommander. So these different settings determine how the data will be displayed on the vehicle profiles. So for example, on the label for the custom fields 1 through 20, custom fields are unique fields that administrators can define to collect organization-specific information. So custom fields are defined at the enterprise level so that data across sites is consistent and normalized across the asset profiles. So up to 20 custom fields are available to be labeled, and labels left blank will not display. So you're not going to have a bunch of extra blanks. You will just have the ones that you actually use show. The assets per page. This is the parameter sets the default number of assets shown on the Manage Vehicles page when you go into that in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. And restricting the number of vehicles displayed may decrease your load times for information on a page. You also, for those of you who are federal customers and have FAST requirements, you can enable FAST reporting. So the parameter determines if FAST reports are available to administrators and contact our technical support or client success to learn more about the FAST module. So one of the custom fields we used here in vehicle settings, for an example for me, is we used monitoring groups for fuel. So I had to report on, number of electric vehicles, number of hybrids, number of four-wheel drive, number of E85 vehicles, and so forth, flex fuel. So I had a custom field called monitoring group, and I set it up for the different monitoring groups that I had to report on each year in my different reports. Okay, so do any of you have any custom vehicle settings that you use in your fleet today? And if so, what is it? So again, if you can put it in the chat, do you have any custom vehicle settings you use in your fleet? And if so, what is it? What custom field do you use? No? Okay. Give it just a little bit of time. Okay. Well, I would encourage you, if you have anything, another one with no. I'm seeing a lot of no's here. So is it that you didn't know it was available and this is something that we can help you with? That would be what I would be intrigued to know. So folks know that that's out there and how we can better define your vehicles for you. So let's take a quick recap of what we learned today. So we can learn configurations, best practices. So you want good data in, so you have good data out. We learned lots of effortless navigation by setting up those general tab, reservation settings, users, vehicle tabs. Is there anything in any of those that I can clarify for anyone right now? If not, you know that you can always reach out to me as well and send me an email and or call me, and I'm happy to help you with that. So next, we're going to go through tools for your fleet toolbox. And I know a lot of you have seen a lot of these screens, but some of you are new on the call. So just want to remind you that we do have lots of resources for you. So agilefleet.com has a lot of online resources. We have the fleet management blog. We have workshop Wednesdays every third Wednesday of the month. We have an extra quarterly webinar once a quarter. And if there's any specific topics you would like to see for that, please let me know, and I'm happy to oblige to that. Next month, I do highly encourage you to come to Workshop Wednesday because we have some exciting new information for you. So we are rolling out a new FleetCommander knowledge base resource in which you can look up questions and answers very quickly. And we're going to have an online demonstration about that. So we're going to walk you through the different knowledge base. There's a lot of subject expert articles and product manuals and guides. And there's also Jumpstart micro learning videos now, just little snippet videos that will help you to do certain aspects in Agile. So I'm very excited. The implementation team has been working hard on this, and client support have been working very hard on this. And they are doing a fantastic job. I've gotten to see a preview, and that is something that you don't want to miss because it will be very beneficial to all clients. We have our YouTube channel, so if there's ever any Workshop Wednesdays you want to go back to, or if there's any particular topic that you're looking for more information on that you want to maybe watch a video about, feel free to go to our YouTube channel and search for that topic because you most likely will find it there on YouTube. Next is our Command 2024, our user group conference, now renamed to Command 2024. It's going to be in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and it's going to be Tuesday, October 1st through Thursday, October 3rd. If you scan that code there, that will take you to the information about the conference, and you can have 3 days of networking and learning with peers and so forth. And it will be a very nice event in which you can learn lots of information from different FleetCommander users. Also, we want you to share your accomplishments, right? So a lot of you are doing amazing things. Let us help you promote those amazing things that you're doing. So feel free to reach out to us to help you if you need a PowerPoint slide or part of a presentation, or if you need help as to how to get users to use Motorpool and so forth. Reach out to us and we're here to help you with those ideas. Also, our client success team is listed on the bottom there. It's Todd Parks and myself. You can see our contact information. And then also our support team. So our support team, the average response time in settling cases was 5 minutes last week. So 4 hours is the goal, but I tell you what, they're doing amazing, and they do a fantastic job of answering your questions and logging all the questions. There's also a support manual there that you can get to by logging in there at support@agilefleet.com. And last but not least, help us make Workshop Wednesday better. I do hope that you got some value out of today's presentation. If you can please go ahead and snap a picture. We would truly like you to respond to our short survey. It would take you less than 1 minute to do. I promise you, it's a very few questions, but it really helps us a lot. Any feedback you provide us, we do take that to heart, because we are here to be your partner in fleet management, and we want to make sure we're giving you the best value for your money, and we want to make sure that we're answering your questions. So again, if you can please just quickly take a snapshot of that QR code and respond to those questions real quick. We would greatly appreciate your feedback. I'll just leave it there for just a little bit here. Give you time to get your cameras out. And any questions? Does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask right now? If so, please put them in the chat. Don't see anybody typing any yet. And if you don't have any, that's fine. But please remember, you can reach out to us at any time, and we are here to help. Whether you reach out to client success or the support team, we appreciate your business. We appreciate you being part of the Agile Fleet family. And thank you so much for being part of Workshop Wednesday, especially during a holiday. And I know a lot of people are closed today. I didn't know if I should reschedule or not, but just keeping in that third Wednesday, I just decided to keep it as is. And for those that couldn't attend, it will be on YouTube, and they can watch it there. So again, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Thank you for all you do for us. And remember, we're here for you. So have a wonderful day and a wonderful summer, and we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.